Burwood High School has taken a very innovative approach to education. It was just over 4 years ago that we made the decision to have a deliberate departure from the one-size-fits-all model. The demographics here are very varied. We have some quite affluent families, some large land owners here in the Adelaide Hills, but right through to students that are living in caravan parks. So yeah, huge range of ability levels, backgrounds, and so one of the cornerstones of the innovation was, as much as possible, how do we personalise the learning, knowing that every one of our students is different. We spent a lot of time at the very beginning looking at the compelling case for change. And student engagement was almost top of the list. You know, when you look at the levels of disengagement at about 30%, and then non-engagement another 30%. So we've actually only got about 30% of our students intellectually engaged in school. And so that on its own, I think, is a compelling enough case for change. But then when you look at the impact of technology, globalisation, the changing workforce, all of those things banded together, the traditional schooling system just isn't cutting it anymore. And we're preparing students for a world that no longer exists by holding on to that antiquated education model. We first came across Big Picture about 18 months into our innovation, because there was a couple of things that weren't working as well as we'd liked, and we were looking for answers, and Big Picture delivered those answers. So the first one was around tracking the students and really getting to know them well and their families well. So the Big Picture advisory structure really struck a chord with us, I guess, in terms of that was the way to go. So we've gone with an advisory structure right across the school, even for the students not in Big Picture. The other one was the notion of that school no longer can be 9 till 3:30 inside the school grounds. So how do we expose students to learning outside of the school 24/7? And part of that, we think, was the leaving to learn notion and the appeal of the internships. So I love the notion that it's still a 5-day educational program, but only 3 days of those are at school and there's 2 days off-site.
Leaving to learn experiences based on student passion are a key part of the Big Picture design for learning. Students are expected to take on long-term internships with a mentor who shares their passion.
In Big Picture we started having debates and all that, and then I started speaking my opinion more, and then Miss Sione just said, why don't you do politics? And I looked into it more, and yeah, I found it really interesting. Well, I emailed different members, but I was more interested in Nick Xenophon, and I emailed him first, but he said that they were too busy. And then I looked up in his different members, and I found John Darley.
Well, we thought it was a challenge, and it's a worthy cause because, you know, kids from schools really need to see the whole side of life, and what Parliament offers is another side of life, absolutely.
It was once a week, more or less, for from May, June until the end of the school year. And that really allowed him to see a broad scope of a lot of different issues, because there was a lot of different things covered in Parliament and a few constituents that were ongoing issues that Kieran was involved with as well.
And I rang in and I said, well, look, my staff only had a briefing last week. We've got to put a submission in on Friday. I'd like an extension of time.
I think it's taught him a different level of responsibility. I'm not saying this specifically about Kieran, but I think sometimes when you're at school, you're in your little school bubble and you don't see how it fits in with the community. And so removing them from the comfort of their school and the comfort zone there, putting them into a different environment with different people to interact with, I think is a good thing. Teaching him responsibilities of saying, okay, this needs to be done and it needs to be done within a certain time frame, and if it's not done, then there are consequences for that. About transforming health? So the government is changing the way the health system is running, and they seem to think that by...
Yeah, I was changed my mind a bit and made me think a lot more. About different issues, about world issues, and what's going in Australia now. When I was younger, I used to be like, oh, who cared if something happened? And now I'm like, why does that happen? Why is it going to happen? I just get more interested in it, and I just look into it, and I just stay focused on it for like an entire week.
His absenteeism was very high. He rarely came to school, and when he did, he sort of disappeared. So what it has done for Kieran, it's allowed him to recognise that he has capacity and to build on that, to know that capacity you can build on at any stage in your life. And he has now, it suddenly dawned on him that this potential that he has, he can do something positive with it. I think that's the most amazing thing for Kieran. It's given him a goal, and it's given him the ability now to complete tasks on time, to know that there's the end place that he needs to be, and how he can manoeuvre himself to get where he wants to be.
I'm going to go to Year 12 and focus on my English and go to uni and get a Bachelor of Politics.
I don't know. I think I might need to put in my job application for a few years' time. Yeah, I can see that something has been lit within him, and it is exciting to be a part of that.
Another great advantage of the Big Picture Academy is it's setting the students up beautifully for success in the work studies program. It's really focused on the students' ability to learn, to develop that love of learning in students, whereas many of the students that have come into Big Picture have been disinclined in the past, non-attenders, etc. And it's really improved their chances in the work sphere. The other thing would be around students understanding how to speak to employers, how to speak to adults in the workplace, how to collaborate in teams. A lot of the skills that employers are now looking for is very much developed through the Big Picture approach. So it dovetails beautifully into the work studies program.
As well as internships, Big Picture students take on all sorts of Leaving to Learn opportunities, from fundraising events and excursions to community service projects.
Habitat for Humanity is running a bushfire recovery program, which I'm currently heading up. So I'm working up here 2 days a week, and I'm coordinating groups of volunteers such as the Birdwood guys who come out and volunteer their time to help on properties such as this one today.
Of course, we lost all the fences, so that's a big job on 200 acres. So we're very thankful that we've had a lot of assistance and help to come and put it back into shape again, because come July we need to bring stock back again, and at the moment they couldn't come back because there's not the fences to hold them.
For Habitat for Humanity, a key part of what we do is work in partnership with other organisations. It's written into our mission statement, and it's a key part of our DNA. And we work very, very closely with students and youths in all of our programs. And for us, it's really about instilling some really important values and disciplines into young people, seeing that the world is bigger than them, and that there's a lot of other things that go on in their community, helping them to be valuable contributors to their community. And the skills and the disciplines that they pick up along the way are really key things that really put them on a pathway to employment.
So of course it just fitted so well into Big Picture, particularly with some of our young boys who were wanting to do construction and building and hands-on work. It gave them an opportunity to work in a real work situation, in a very valued environment, but under the supervision of someone who was skilled and who could supervise work sites.
Well, it's just a better opportunity to get out of the classroom, do what you want to do in life, sort of thing, and sort of just see what you like more. So if you don't want to do something, you can change it, sort of thing. So yeah, really good.
There's more hands-on stuff instead of just writing stuff down on a piece of paper every day. We get to do what we want, and yeah.
The guys just love it. They come home black and filthy, and the harder it is and the dirtier it is, the more they seem to like it. I reckon you might as well do each post as you go.
It's very beneficial because psychologically it gives you a boost, because you look at the job and you think, wow, we're going to be years putting this back together, but with all the help that we've had, it's coming together great.
It really just makes me feel good, because helping other people, because sometimes they don't have the money, financially can't do it, and just helping them out, volunteer work, so it's good.
Yeah, it's just really rewarding to know that you've helped someone out.
I'll greatly encourage organisations to look at partnerships like this. the value that the students get out of it, learning skills, contributing to their education, contributing to their local community, and really advancing themselves on a pathway to employment is a great way for any organisation to sow into the lives of young people.
Advisory teachers help students develop their own learning plans to map personal interest projects to learning goals and curriculum requirements. They catch up with students regularly to assess and check progress.
Hi girls. So we're meeting this afternoon to talk about your learning plan, internships, where we're at for the term. What possible project, I know we talked about it last week with some possible suggestions, have you managed to get around to speaking with your mentor again about those possible ideas?
Well, I have my internship tomorrow on Wednesday, so I will discuss it with her then.
Okay, and what do you think you're going to suggest, or what would you like to go with?
Well, I really like the idea of teaching them about technology, so how to use iPads or computers.
Yeah.
You'd have to be very patient, but I think it would be worthwhile.
Yeah, it'd be worthwhile for you and them.
Yeah.
So Sam, you've approached the learning plan structure a little bit differently, I notice.
Yep, so I've got history as my main focus.
Yes.
And I've broken it up into 3 separate projects covering maths, science and English in different ones.
Okay.
So in English I've got civil rights as my main heading, and I'm looking at I have a dream speech and the Selma movie, and I'm going to do that as different projects.
Fantastic.
Within those ones.
So you've sort of based the whole learning plan around the history curriculum in a way, because there's 3 components that you need to cover.
Yeah.
As you said, the globalisation, World War II and civil rights, and within each you've chosen a different curriculum area under those 3 components. That's fantastic. Larissa, how did you go about your learning plan? What did you actually look at?
I'm looking at face painting.
Wonderful. How did you structure that?
So like for science and stuff, I'm doing like different skin types and if people have like reactions to it. And for like maths, I'm doing like the cost of running a business and stuff. Okay. And for English, I'm like writing up and doing reports on it.
Wonderful.
One of the major aspects of the Australian curriculum that many people tend to overlook is the general capabilities. And they're such important skills for students moving forward in the 21st century. I think the Big Picture program, more than just about anything else I've seen, really develops those skills in our students.
Through internships and leaving to learn experiences, Big Picture students get real and relevant skills that address work studies outcomes and the general capabilities. The passion-based approach often applies across the whole curriculum.
We're starting to explore how the work that you do in CAS links with the Australian curriculum. So from your learning plan, what's the area that you've identified as your area of interest?
Agriculture.
Okay.
I'm passionate about animals and ag and...
Okay. So is there an aspect of your work at the moment with animals and animal handling and that you can link, say, with the science?
Well, the DNA.
The DNA?
And genetics, the
right.
top one there.
Okay.
And I was able to mix that in because with working with animals, you've got, if you want to work on breeding, you've got to put that into focus. If you're trying to breed 2 breeds together and have a different crossbreed, you need to also take that into consideration. Then I also came up with chemical reactions.
Right.
So if you need to drench or tag or that with an animal, you need to consider some of the chemical reactions and what it can do to the animal.
Okay, what about your maths? What have you covered?
The area of compound shapes. It's one, just say if you've got 50 sheep, just say, and you've got 20 acres, you've got to use shape measurements and how much like the animal eats.
Okay.
So you'll know if you have too many sheep or how much land you've got. So I had to link, I decided to link that to my interest.
Okay, so you've done that one as well?
Yeah,
okay, so that was area compound shapes?
Yes, it was.
What have you done with history?
The teacher told me to try to do the Women's Land Army.
Okay.
And I'm going to use that, because when it was during the war, all the males went out to fight the war, and the women ended up having to step up their roles.
Okay.
Like run farms and...
So you're looking at how women ran the farms while the men
like,
were off at war?
Yeah, and we also had to do a lot of background research, and that covers that part of the curriculum.
Okay, the background research and causes that with that one,
I think one of the strengths of Big Picture around students following their passions has meant that even some of the curriculum areas they may not have been that excited about, if they can study that in the context of their personalised passion, then they're far more likely to engage with that material. And that's what we've been finding. We've now picked up 50 students in Big Picture at Year 10, which is half the cohort. What's fascinating is that some people seem to think the Big Picture's last chance school, it's only for the kids who are struggling. We've got 4 of the top 5 students from Year 9 last year have gone into Big Picture at Year 10. So they're looking at being doctors, lawyers, engineers, but seeing this as a way of accelerating that and really pursuing that with vigour.
I am amazed at how I've seen young people change from being totally, many of them, not all of them, but many of them totally disengaged to having a real, they're really determined and they have a goal, whereas before they were just floating.
I actually really enjoy school. I actually look forward to going to it every day.
I was like hiding and all that and not doing any work. But then as soon as I got into Big Picture, I found what I wanted to do and I finally got work done.
I think after I experienced the whole internship, it just made me have more self-confidence in myself.
I reckon Big Picture's got us more engaged as well.
Okay. It made me enjoy school so much more.